Psalm 18 is a profound expression of David's gratitude and faith in God after being delivered from his enemies. The psalm begins with David's declaration of love for the Lord, acknowledging God as his strength, rock, and fortress. David describes how God responded to his cries for help during times of distress, rescuing him from overwhelming dangers and enemies who were too strong for him. God's interventions depicted in vivid imagery, with the earth shaking, smoke rising, and fire devouring, as God moved to deliver David. David praises God for his power, justice, and mercy, recognizing that his deliverance was not only due to God's strength, but also his own righteousness. The psalm emphasizes God's faithfulness to those who remain true to him and keep his commandments. David reflects on his victory over his enemies, attributing his success to God's guidance and strength. Through God's intervention, David is exalted and his enemies are defeated. David recounts how God answered his cries for help, causing the earth to tremble and shaking the foundations of the mountains. The Lord's anger burned like fire, demonstrating his mighty power in responding to David's distress. David praises God for his intervention, knowing that his rescue came from God's justice, fairness, and mercy. He acknowledges that his righteousness played a part in his deliverance, as God rewards the faithful according to their actions. As David continues, he reflects on how God's protection extends to those who are faithful to him. He describes how God deals with the merciful and upright, showing that God's actions are just and aligned with his character. David's deliverance was a direct result of God's faithfulness to the righteous, reminding us that when we walk in God's ways, he will provide the protection and strength we need. David also reflects on the victories he achieved, attributing them entirely to God's strength and guidance. He describes how God enabled him to overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles and defeat his enemies. David recognizes that, with God's help, he was able to leap over walls and run through troops, showing that with God, no challenge is too great to overcome. As a result of God's intervention, David is exalted and his enemies are defeated. The psalm concludes with David's declaration of praise, acknowledging God's greatness and the covenant relationship God has with him and his descendants. David promises to give thanks to the Lord and sing praises to his name among the nations, honoring God for his faithfulness and power. Psalm 18 serves as a timeless reminder of God's protection, faithfulness, and power for those who trust in him. It teaches us that God responds to the cries of his people with power and mercy, providing strength to overcome adversities. David's testimony of deliverance encourages us to trust in God, knowing that he will always act on behalf of those who remain faithful to him. Through God's guidance and strength, we too can find victory in our struggles, knowing that God is with us, delivering us from harm and exalting us in his perfect timing.